Hello, everyone. Good afternoon to you. Hope you're very well and enjoying yourself. I think I'm getting the hang of how to use this thing now. Welcome to my third Canaries Norwich City Debrief Q&A session on a Friday afternoon, which I've decided is a good time to do these things. So yeah, thanks for jumping aboard. I to just bring you up to speed. So basically, each Friday afternoon, roughly this time, quarter to five. Why not? We'll have 20 minutes where we are together and having some fun. And you can talk about all sorts of things Norwich City wise. Ask me whatever you want. I will do my very best to answer them. Anything you want to chat about, of course, ahead of the game on Saturday. It's Preston at Carrow Road. Norwich back at Carrow Road for the first time since not very long ago, of course. But I think we'd all probably rather forgot how last season ended, certainly at Carrow Road. It was a bit of a nightmare, wasn't it? So we can chat through any of that. Any issues or anything you wish to discuss ahead of the game will be lovely. Get your questions and comments in. I'll do my very best to rattle through as many of them as possible. I am going to try and keep this to under 20 minutes, just so you're aware. So we will rattle through it all. You'll get to watch it retrospectively. So if you're watching this and it's not Friday afternoon, you're watching it at a later date, that's brilliant. Just keep the comments coming in. But also bear in mind that the following Friday I'll be going live again at roughly the same time. If you wanted to join me live, worth bearing in mind, of course, that the Bournemouth game is no longer on Friday evening, is it? Next week it's going to be on the Sunday. So a little bit of a change of tack there, but should mean that we can do another one of these, which will be exciting. I'm assuming that the press conference will also be on that Friday. We will see. So yeah, anything you want to discuss, get it in, and I will answer as many as I can. We'll rattle through them, of course. I do just want to flag up a couple of things, if I may. I've got an interview with Jacob Sorensen that you can read over at The Athletic. There's also an interview with Stephen Naismith I did, and you might sit there and go, God, why do I want to hear from him? Which is probably an understandable reaction, but I do think you should read it because I think it's one of those interviews that just sets a few things right. I asked him a lot basically, so hopefully it just gives a few answers, maybe in terms of context. Definitely worth a read. And if you are watching this and you're not already a subscriber to The Athletic, I will take this moment just to flag up that the current deal at the moment is £1 per month for a limited time. So you can sign up at the cost of just £1 per month. So there really hasn't been a better time to sign up. If you've been thinking about it, you should do it now. And then you can suck it in and see it and see how it takes your fancy for getting involved longer term. So that's it. Theathletic.co.uk is the headline site. You can find Norwich there and join in, and away you go. So also worth, as you will know, it's Alec Neil and Preston down at Carrow Road tomorrow, which is not something that hasn't happened before, but it's interesting. I think Preston were the last championship team to beat Norwich, if I remember rightly, away from home, whenever that was. I feel like I've missed one out there, but maybe not. I'm sure you'll tell me if my memory's a bit sketchy. So we had our press conference with Daniel Farker today. Of course, we've got 1,000 fans who are going to be let into Carrow Road to watch the game, which is probably 2-3 times more than Lipstadt were getting when Daniel Farker was head coach there. So it's not something he won't be used to per se. But of course, inside Carrow Road is a big place, and it will be interesting what that is like. It does seem like the fans are going to be allowed to sing and all that sort of stuff, which is something that wasn't allowed, I think, in Scotland during their test events. Although quite how you police that, I don't know. But hopefully it'll be nice to see that. I don't know if we'll be able to hear it because people are kind of stuck behind, we're behind a glass at Carrow Road, so I'm not sure whether we'll be able to hear it, but we will see. So yeah, that is all good to have. It'd be great to have 1,000 people in the stadium, especially if that gets to a point where it allows more in the ground in future. But I do find myself sighing and hoping, of course, that the general climate and world allows this to be as safe as possible. It is a bit of a contradiction in terms of what's happening in football and away. So there we go. Right. So yeah, and with the other thing with the press conference, probably worth pointing out, Emi Buendia is available, although we did get bit of a kick today, apparently. And I would have said this anyway. Daniel basically said it himself. Emmy probably won't start tomorrow, but he will probably be in the 18. It's going to be a very competitive 18. Grant Hanley is back in as well. Sam Byram is now going to be out until January, but he was already out until November. It's another setback and a second operation, which is really bad news. It's such a shame for a player who looked so good and looked like such a great signing last season. And Norwich would love to get him back up and fit, but that's not going to happen this year. So that's a big blow. Doesn't affect how busy the squad is in terms of numbers. I think Marco Stiepermann is the other one who's got a back problem, so that's why he didn't travel up at Huddersfield. But there's still lots of options. Grant Hanley is back in team training as well. So yeah, Daniel's got a lot of selection dilemmas to work his way through. And as you'll probably have seen as well, which I'll just reflect on now, I'm fully expecting Danel Sinani and Melvin City to be players out on loan for the season at Belgian top flight side Waasland Beveren. They've got to self-isolate before they hook up with the squad, so I think that's why nothing's been confirmed. I expect that will happen next week, and I do expect Sam McCullum to go out on loan. I think it'll be a championship loan, and I would guess there's a good chance it might be at Coventry, but we will see. All of those will be season-long loans, but I think Norwich will have recall options in January, which is fairly standard practice, so it depends what happens there, of course. But it does suggest they're not expecting to lose anyone else anytime soon, or that they have replacements for them sort of in mind should anything happen. They're all still here now, aren't they? Despite a few the odd interview going out during the week. So yes, I will do one of these live on a Friday afternoon here, and live on Facebook on my Facebook page on a Friday. My wife on a Friday on a Wednesday afternoon on my Facebook page. If you follow me on Twitter, I'll be able to keep you abreast of all those. But of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss out what I do here, and go follow and subscribe to my Facebook page, which I think is fb.ne/mbjourno. And you'll be able to follow all the stuff there, but one may will be enough. So get questions in. I've got about 15 minutes. As I said, this is definitely going to be under 20 minutes, mainly because YouTube takes so long to encode it afterwards for some reason. And I don't know. We'll see if it works any better by doing it on the website. That's my own personal experiment today. So anything you want to ask, get it in. And of course, I'll be at the game on Saturday against Preston. Let's go through some of your questions. Fire them at me, please. Graham Turner. Hello, Graham. Hope you're well. Would now be as good a time as any to extend the City stand? Yeah, Graham, I've been asked this a little bit, and I know that some clubs are doing that work at their grounds. Fulham are redeveloping their stadium, and it does seem like a sensible thing to do when there's no one in it, because you're not going to be hit by the loss of ticket revenue. Obviously, the issue Norwich have got is that they already have a £12 million hole. I don't think now would be the best time to take on the additional debt, and they don't know when fans might be able to come back in the ground. We've got 1,000 coming in tomorrow, but they're relying on the whole wider situation in terms of how that then escalates. So we will see, but I really can't see that being on the club's agenda for a number of years, to be honest. And I don't know if there really needs to be, does there? I know that it's quite a supporter. I think the supporters would love it. I remember this when I was younger. I used to draw. I used to doodle drawings of Carrow Road and like try and build models and things. Something really, I had a great childhood. And you want the stadium to look as brilliant and as big as possible, because it's the cathedral of Norwich City Football Club, isn't it? So, but I just think in terms of where the club are, I just don't see it happening until Norwich could establish themselves in the Premier League, and that's almost a nonsensical statement, because I don't know if Norwich are a club who will ever establish themselves in the Premier League. What would that take? Even a club like Wolves, with all the money that's going into them, at some point that may change. So, and maybe more to a point, a team like Burnley, who are about as established as they will ever be in the Premier League, they still start every season trying to stay up. So yeah, I can understand why now might be a good opportunity, but I also think the financial ramifications of why it's a good opportunity means that it won't be a good opportunity, if that makes sense, Graham. But I'm sure we'll keep asking. We'll have another AGM soon, I suppose, because my years will skew if, but that's normally October, November time. So I'm sure it'll come up in that again as well. James Rushmore. Hello, James. Nice to hear from you. Not Preston North End related, but any news on a potential third kit? Good question. I know that in Germany it was being discussed. I know that the launch, because of course the away kit was launched while we were all in Germany. The third kit launch wasn't anywhere near being ready. So no is the answer. I haven't chased up on it. I don't know if Norwich will need to wear their third kit, but obviously they can get it released and then see when the moments come. It'd be interesting how the current situation has affected kit sales in general, actually, and not just for Norwich, but maybe wider. But it's kind of ready to go. It's just a question of when they decide to launch it, I suppose. So they might, maybe we'll get it for Christmas. It's a strange year after all, so why not? But I would think they'd release it before then. I don't even know what the rules are with the EFL and when you have to sign off your kits. I don't know. Can you just unveil one halfway through a season? I'm not sure. Don't know. Well, lots of questions. I'll try and find the answers to them, James. Alan Montgomery. Hello there, Alan. Thank you for being here. Hypothetical, my favourite sort of question. How do you think Alec Neil and Webber would have gotten on if Webber had replaced McNally instead of Moxey? If Webber had replaced McNally instead of Moxey, sorry. Is that right? If Webber had replaced McNally instead of got you. Oh, sorry, that's me being slow. It's been a long day. Good question. I don't think Alec Neil would have really liked to have shared his responsibilities with someone above him. I think he would have wanted to have control of that with a head of recruitment that filtered into him. So a very different dynamic to what we have in Stuart Webber, who manages the club and is obviously overseeing a lot of the recruitment and then sort of coming down into his head coach. So I don't think that environment would have necessarily worked. I mean, football is full of a lot of people with very strong opinions and beliefs in how they do things. So a lot of the skill of the job is sort of is meshing that, which I think Stuart Webber is pretty good at. But again, he's in charge here, so obviously as part of the exec committee. So I don't know. I think there's a reason why it didn't come to pass. Put it like that. So there we go. But I have to say, Alec is a great guy, and yes, Alec, and done a great job at Preston. I know that sounds a bit of a cliche. Whether he can sustain that for this season or it gets to a point where he's going to need to try and move on, I don't know. It would have been really interesting if he'd have got the West Brom job. It would have been really interesting. And while Alec's doing a good job at Preston, I wonder if he'll start getting typecast a little bit. It'll be interesting where his next move is, because I kind of already feel like he's earned one. So it'll be interesting who comes up for that. LSJ Howard. I'm sorry, I haven't got your full name there. I'll call you Howard. LSJ. I'll call you LSJ. The Naismith article was a decent read. Oh, decent. Good. Thank you. A good bit of insight into his time at Norwich. Good. I'm glad you felt that. As I just kind of mentioned there, I kind of felt like it was one of those where you maybe people didn't want to read it or thought they didn't want to read it, but actually he's a good guy. I had a really good time, and there wasn't anything really I couldn't ask him. So I think it was good to put that all to him. You're a current subscriber to The Athletic, which is great. £1 offer for renewals or just new subscribers. It is just new subscribers in terms of signing up to The Athletic, so you know. Alan's confirming, yes, Preston was after the Leeds and Ipswich games last February. Although Norwich beat Ipswich, didn't they? Yes. And so, yeah, I think Preston was the last time Norwich lost a championship game away from home. We didn't mind because they didn't lose anymore. So, and Preston were good that day. It was kind of a typical performance we could see coming. But a few things went their way as well. And of course, Norwich won there in the FA Cup last season, as Adam Eder will remember well. Daniel Emery, hello, Dan. With Zimbo, Godfrey and Gibson already in the 18, can you see Hanley or even closer making the matchday squad without injuries now? Well, it's one of those positions where people are going to have to bide their time. Tim Closer, we kind of got the situation where he can build himself up, I think, and get himself, he's probably still trying to fight to get himself up to full fitness, possibly, because he had a long time out last season with a lot of injuries, even though he then played a lot of games. Grant has been out a long time as well, so there is that kind of background. These two guys need to be up to peak. And even Ben Gibson hasn't played a lot of time. But I would expect Ben to be on the bench, Gibson, and I would expect Zimbo and Godfrey to be starting. And I don't know when that would change. We'll have to see. Gibson is probably a little bit of left back cover at the moment as well, especially with Sam Byron being out. So that's how I'd probably see that situation. It's all for Grant. I mean, we expect injuries to come along, and they're going to be. It's actually, once we get through these opening weeks, it does start getting back into a sort of a Saturday midweek run over October and November. So, and the window will be closed by then. So there's a lot of factors in it, and people will just have to hang on. I think getting Grant and Tim up to their best peak physical condition at that point is exactly where Norwich would want to be then. So we will see. Keep them coming in. I've got about 5 minutes, which I think is long enough for everyone, isn't it? And we'll, of course, do this again next week, next Friday. Set it in your diaries. Alan Montgomery. Surely McCallum going out on loan leaves us with one fit left back until the new year, at least. Yeah, it's but the thing is, Sam needs games. He's still young, and I think it's going to be a balancing act that Norwich have done in the past, in fairness, where they decide whether to loan someone out so they get regular football or keep them around the group just in case. But maybe it's not ideal for their longer term development. So I think they may opt to have Bali Mumba around because he's then the right back cover who can also cover left back, as can Max. So then Bali has more chance of playing at right back, and Max can cover at left if needed be. And of course, Norwich could go to 3 at the back in that situation. So there's probably slightly more remit for Sam McCallum to go out than, say, Bali, for example. So that's how I see it. I don't think it leaves them terribly short. There would be a January recall clause. So there is a little bit of room for Norwich to manoeuvre. And that's a judgment call, isn't it? That's the call they'll make. Bearing in mind the squad is quite big. So I can understand it. It's probably not ideal because you just love all these options. But we will see. We will see, but I would expect him probably still to go out on loan, and I think Sam's situation was already probably known in that regard. So, yeah, that was how I would see that one. It's obviously a risk, though, isn't it? It's a risk and a judgment call. Stephen Pass, do you feel like Webber takes too many risks with the number of players he loans out, or is it completely outweighed by development value? Well, it's a judgment call, really, and I don't know how much we could question the judgments, because generally they've been pretty good. And Norwich did get promoted with a smaller squad, although the circumstances are pretty different here. So I think what you have to probably appreciate with Stuart Webber is that in his 3 years, he's generally credit and faith in what he's deciding to do, because generally it's worked out for the greater good. Last season was difficult, and that is probably the reservation at the moment in terms of what happens next. But that's how I would see it for now. I think if we suddenly saw a load of players going out on loan and leaving real holes, then we have an issue. And they do have to be a little careful with Danel going out. But I have a feeling they might bring others in, to be honest. I wouldn't question the fact that I think that's probably an option, that they might bring other players in and have other recruits in mind if they still if they do decide to loan players out, because they may have looked at Sam and thought, McCallum, he's going to be great in 2 or 3 years, but let's get him some games in the Championship for another club for the meantime and see how we get on. So then it would make sense, wouldn't it? Let's go through these. We're running out of time. I'm definitely going to go over 20 minutes. Josh, do we start Eder against Preston or stick with Pukki? Although the assist from Pukki was composed, that also tells me a striker still made to me, Josh, it's straightforward. Teemu starts. You can bring Adam on. Let's see how the next 3-4 games go. But I have no issue starting with Teemu, and I think that's exactly what should happen, personally. I know Adam is knocking on the door, which is great, and he made a really good impact. And I think you can follow that framework on Saturday. But to me, Teemu still starts, definitely. Jez, hello, Jez. Do you think who will drop out of the 18 for Buendia? Good question, because I was trying to work out the 18. Here's my Huddersfield team sheet. Sorry, my triceps are really tight. I went to the gym and I can't move my arms, basically. I think it will be Lucas Rupp, I think. who drops out for Emmy. That would be my shout, but it does leave Norwich a little bit short defensively, so it'll be interesting if Daniel Barker sort of mixes it up a little bit more. Howard, hey Howard, the £1 athletic subscription offer available for international Canaries supporters too. Now I think it fluctuates from $1, a pound, or a euro depending on where you are. So what I would say is log in and it will tell you. But it's certainly open to all new subscribers, as far as I'm aware. It doesn't matter if you live somewhere else, so go for it. Who do we expect to see leading the line tomorrow? Michael says Daniel Wright. I think it'll be Tamu Pukki. I would be very surprised if it wasn't. Very. Mr. Nelson, hello there again, sir. I've seen Leitner training in Germany. Yeah, he's been busy in Munich, hasn't he? He really has. But Drimich played for the 23s. He did. Potentially a way back in for Josip. Well, no, he's still a Norwich player, so he's still allowed to train. I mean, in fairness, I think Moritz Leitner was back in Norwich the other week and just did some training at Carrow Road as well. So they are all allowed to do that because essentially their employment contracts are still with Norwich. But no, I don't see a way back in for Josip. It's good that he's getting some game time, but he's not in the first team group. So ultimately, it's going to be up to those players to see if they can get themselves a move away on loan. If not, it's going to be it's going to be probably a bit sickening not getting any first team football and looking at the group. Never say never. I mean, I suppose if Norwich lost all of their strikers, then it would be a bit stupid not to involve Josip some way, but I think we're talking about severely exceptional circumstances and not an ideal situation for anyone in that way. James Rushmore, hi James. How has your match day experience changed with COVID-19 rules? I work for a club at National League North, I guess that is. It's been surprisingly efficient considering the pandemic in 2020 was unprecedented. Yeah, I mean, it's funny how I suddenly so adjusted to it all. I think that's the greatest thing. I don't like it. It's harder to talk to the people you're working alongside, people at the club, fans, just generally talking to people. It's all very sectioned off, as you would expect. So it's all a bit distant, and it's harder to just talk to people, have a conversation about what's going on and my views and their views and all of that stuff with whoever it is. So it's not ideal. We're getting a bit of socially distanced contact rather than everything being either on phone or Zoom. So that's good. That's a better experience, and that may be an EFL thing rather than Premier League. So it is what it is. So completely used to the grounds and no fans, which is kind of why I'm a little bit excited about what it'll be like with just 1,000 fans in, just to see. Excited is probably not the word, but just to see what it's like. It'll be really interesting how that sort of looks and feels. So yeah, I mean, it's been good to be able to go to games and see them, because on the television never does it justice fully compared to being inside the ground. And I've experienced that plenty of times myself professionally. So it's good for that. And I feel very privileged. And I hope I'm relaying good messages to all of you who would love to be there as well, because that's obviously why I'm there. That's my job. But I do hope we get to at least have some sort of fans in the ground soon and maybe a bit more freedom of movement. But it's difficult, isn't it? Because we're at the behest of a virus. It's and the way it's being handled externally of football. So there we go. Howard Smith again. Hey, Howard. How well would this squad operate with two up front? Feel that the attacking depth we have with damaged teams? Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Norwich won the game with two up front on Saturday because Adam, although he came on and started out on the left, basically played up top alongside Tamu pretty quickly after he made that move. So I think Daniel knows that. It's just a question of when he utilises it. I don't see him starting with it very often because of the solidity that 4-2-3-1 should offer him. But it could happen if Norwich start playing with a three at the back, which might be forced by the issue of being slightly short at fullback and then having to play with wing backs. So we will see. There's lots of factors in play, but Daniel Varga knows what two up top does, and he does use it regularly, to be honest. So it just doesn't start with it very often. So I think we'll see that at some point. J Tust 12, do you know if there's been any offers for players other than Jamal? No, and still no offers for anyone else, as far as I know. There you go. They're all very highly rated and sought after, but it's all quiet as well. We will see how that develops. I wonder if the closer we get to the end of the window, how much that will pop up. But all quiet so far. And James M comes in giving me a score prediction. Are you, James, of 3-0 Norwich win? I don't think I'm going to start making predictions, but it would be lovely to think that Norwich could start off with 2 successive wins and also win at Carrow Road, because although I asked Daniel about this at Con in our pre-match presser at lunchtime, you know, no one's really thinking about how stodgy things were at Carrow Road, of course, last season. But I mean, it's stuck in my mind that the only association I have with behind closed doors football is shocking, is, you know, just woeful feelings at Carrow Road. So I'm hoping that is different, and we can maybe think of some things that are a bit brighter than Todd Cantwell's goal against Manchester United and losing in extra time in the FA Cup. So it'd be nice to get a victory at Carrow Road in this environment against Preston. Let's hope it happens. I'm going to call it there. Thank you so much for all your time and your questions. Really appreciate it. We will do this again next Friday for number 4 of my live Canaries debrief. The idea is we do lots of them regularly, but they're not going to go on and on. So don't worry about that. I'll see you here next Friday afternoon. I will see you on Facebook to do the same thing on Wednesday afternoon, all being well. And of course, you'll have my video verdict from the game on Saturday when Norwich host Preston. In the meantime, keep safe, keep well, and see you soon. All the best. I was going to just leave it here I'm going to stay central because you can see all the graphics on the sides. See all the graphics on the sides. You can watch other videos. You can subscribe, which I think is there. Oh, I got that wrong. We'll find that in post, won't we? Thanks all. See you later.